Have you ever stopped to think about where your family came from? I mean, really came from. Chances are, at some point, they moved. Migration, it's one of the oldest and most fundamental parts of the human story. It's this incredible tale of hope, of risk, and of change that has literally shaped the world we live in today.
Okay, let's dive right in. What you're looking at here is a map of our earliest human ancestors making their way out of Africa, a journey that started hundreds of thousands of years ago. That ancient urge to move, it is absolutely still with us, but now it's happening on this massive global scale. So what is it that really drives this movement of people? And how does it keep shaping our societies, our economies, and even our cultures? That's exactly what we're going to break down.
To really understand why people move, we first need to be on the same page about what migration actually is. So let's start with a really clear definition. Now, the key phrase on this slide, and this is super important, is intention of settling. This is what makes migration totally different from just traveling. We're not talking about a vacation, right? And it's not your daily commute. Migration is all about putting down new roots, whether that's for a season, a couple of years, or even for a lifetime. So, if migration is about settling somewhere new, that leads us to the biggest question of all. Why leave home in the first place? What makes someone pack up their entire life and go? Well, let's look at the forces at play here. The easiest way to think about it is like a magnet. You've got these forces that kind of repel you from a place, and then other forces that attract you or pull you towards another. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, we've got the push factors. These are the negative things that essentially force people out. Things like conflict, no jobs, or natural disasters. Then on the right, you have the pull factors. These are all the positive things that attract people to a new place, like safety, a better job, good schools, or just a more stable society. Every single migration story is a unique mix of these pushes and pulls. And here is a perfect real-world example of that. What we're seeing here are Indian construction workers in Dubai. They are responding to a huge pull factor, the chance for jobs and economic opportunities that maybe just don't exist for them back home. This is that pull factor in action. Okay, so now we have a pretty good idea of why people move. Let's build up our vocabulary a little bit so we can understand how they move and what we actually call these different types of movement. So first up is emigration. Here's a super easy way to remember it. Think of the letter E for exit. Emigration is the act of leaving your home country. And the people who leave, they're called emigrants. Simple as that. And the other side of that same coin is immigration. So if E is for exit, you can probably guess that I is for into. Immigration is the act of arriving and settling in a new country. So a person who emigrates from one country is at the same time immigrating to another. Now, these journeys basically fall into two main buckets. You've got internal migration, which is when people move within their own country's borders. A classic example is moving from a small rural town to a big city for a job. And then there's external migration. This is the one we hear about most often, and it's when people cross an international border to live somewhere else. But even external migration isn't just one thing. It gets broken down even further. Legal migrants have official permission from the government to be there. Irregular migrants, well, they don't have that official documentation. And then you have forced migrants and refugees. Now, these are people who had no choice. They were forced to flee their country because their lives or their freedom were in immediate danger. And for so many, especially those in the last two groups we just mentioned, the decision to move is absolutely not taken lightly. These images, they really bring the human reality of it all into sharp focus. On the left, you see people trying to get over a border fence. On the right, refugees packed onto a boat. These are not just numbers in a report. These are real people, real families, driven by those powerful push and pull factors to take incredible risks, all for the chance at a different life. Okay, so a really important point here is that this movement of people doesn't happen in a vacuum. It creates these massive ripple effects that are felt all over the world, changing both the places people leave behind and the places they arrive. Let's start with the parent country, the one people are leaving. The effects are really complex. On one hand, you have migrants sending money home. We call that remittances. And that can be a huge boost for the local economy. Plus, there's less strain on resources. But on the other hand, the country can lose its youngest, its most energetic, and often its most skilled people. And that loss is a serious, serious challenge. I mean, when your doctors, your engineers, your scientists all leave, it can create this vacuum of talent that actually slows down the country's ability to grow and develop.
This whole phenomenon has a name, and we're going to get to it in just a minute.
So, what about the host country, the place where people arrive? Well, the impact there is just as complicated. On the plus side, immigrants bring new skills, they start businesses, and they often fill essential jobs that help the economy grow. But on the flip side, a big, sudden influx of people can put a real strain on public services. Think housing, schools, and healthcare. It's this really delicate balance between amazing opportunities and some very real challenges.
Okay, let's zoom in on that specific issue we just mentioned, the migration of highly skilled people. This is a phenomenon known as the brain drain. So, brain drain, which is also called human capital flight, is basically when a country loses its most educated professionals. We're talking doctors, scientists, researchers, tech entrepreneurs. They leave for other nations. And for a lot of developing countries, this is a major, major concern.
So what's pushing these skilled people out? Well, it's often a very specific set of factors. It could be low pay, a lack of funding to do their research, political instability, or just a work environment that stifles their potential and ideas.
And the pull factors drawing them in? They're pretty much the direct opposite. Developed countries can often offer much higher salaries, cutting-edge facilities, and a stable, open environment where these talented people can really do their best work and thrive.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. It's not always a permanent loss. While the immediate impact is a drain of talent, there's a potential positive twist. Sometimes, migrants go back home after years abroad, and they bring with them new skills, global connections, and investment capital. This is called a reverse brain drain, and it can actually become a powerful engine for development back in their home country. And this brings us right to the fundamental question at the heart of modern migration. It's a story as old as we are, but in our hyper-connected world, it poses a real challenge for all of us. How do we find that balance between a person's fundamental desire for a better life and the collective future of the communities and the countries that shape them?